deposits for tenants is a huge topic for them, and they spend a lot of money on it and they don't always get their money back. What would you say are the best tools for them to ensure that they always put themselves in a good position?
So one of the most important factors, Sarah, with regards to getting the deposit back is to have a good inventory in place, because it's just as important for the tenant to have a good inventory with photographs, date stamped, and for it to be very detailed. And what we've found at No Let It Go, one of our mantras is whether there's a dispute at the end of the tenancy is very dependent upon what is in place at the start. It's a nice, clear inventory that's been signed by both parties. What's very important for tenants with regards to the inventory is that if you don't agree with it, don't just sit there quietly and just think, well, this is it, I've got to suffer this. You make your amendments, support those with photographs and get them either back to your agent or your landlord, and get an acknowledgement from the landlord or the agent that they have received them, that they've acknowledged them, and that they accept the amendments.
Okay, that's really interesting, because I think there's probably a misconception out there that inventories is just about the landlord and it's solely for landlord benefit. So it's really great to hear that actually it sounds like this is an excellent tool for both parties.
Yes, because from my adjudication background, so a little bit about my adjudication background, I trained to be an adjudicator with the TDS, the Tenancy Deposit Scheme, which comes under the umbrella of Arla Property Mark. But latterly, I have my own adjudication company called IA Services, and we provide adjudication services for end of tenancy disputes for one of the nil deposit schemes. So on a daily basis, we're seeing the fallout of landlord and tenant disputes. And so often it all goes back to the inventory, and most often it's about cleanliness. We read the horror stories in the press about the tenants walking off with the TV or dismantling the fireplace off the wall and going off with that. That actually isn't really reality. If you speak with any of the deposit schemes, 80 to 85% of the disputes have an element of cleanliness to them. And so if the inventory is specific about the level of cleanliness, and let's face it, a lot of tenants, unfortunately, do move into properties and they're not professionally cleaned. They might only be cleaned to an average domestic standard. I did an adjudication just last night, and the tenant had uploaded pictures at the start of the tenancy, thank goodness, to support their claim. There was actually a maggot in one of the drawers in the kitchen. Yeah. And yet the landlord was trying to claim for a professional clean at the end of the tenancy. As I say, in this instance, the tenant, was very savvy. They'd uploaded loads of photographs, they'd documented them, and they'd accompanied that with an email. So I was, quite easily able to see this property wasn't professionally cleaned at the start, and therefore the tenant couldn't be charged for a professional clean at the end of the tenancy. So that's why it's so important for tenants to make sure that the inventory is accurate.